Of course, even the most intellectually enlightened human psyche can never match the strength of the anxiolytic arsenal of the primary psychosis. Therefore, in the critical moments when the intellectual mechanisms fail, the anxiolytic mechanism of the primary psychosis, as old as humanity, is triggered. In the case of 10 to 25% of the population with a non-psychotic constitution, if such a situation occurs, we cannot speak of the primary psychosis. In this case, it would be more appropriate to call such a sudden psychosis as psychotic outburst. This is actually a term used in the school of French psychiatry, where the concept of an outburst of madness, bouffée délirante, is used. The nature always returns to the mechanisms of functioning which have been proven over millions of years. The psychosis is such a mechanism. It's a natural anxiolytic mechanism and is inseparable from the psyche of the human species. It's natural that in the situations of the eruption of anxiety, when the developed anxiolytic mechanisms fail or stop working for some reasons, the people who belong to the non-psychotic population, these 10 to 25% of modern humanity, they will develop the state of psychosis, the psychotic outburst, with everything characteristic for the primary psychosis. It is therefore understandable why the primary psychosis does not cease either during or after adolescence in every person belonging to the majority, 75 to 90% of people. Apparently, in the run up to the adolescence, these individuals did not develop a sufficient arsenal of anxiolytic tools to stop the primary psychosis. These anti-anxiety tools are the enlightened mind, that is, a proper level of the intellectual competences, and the emotional maturity. The emotional maturity is nothing else but the ability to control emotions with the help of the intellect and therefore with the help of the logical system. And the ability of the mind to resist the anxiety is henceforth referred to as the anxiety intelligence. And it has nothing to do with the intelligence measured by the intelligence quotient. It seems that the anxiety intelligence, unlike the logical intelligence, is not hereditary, although the question is open. During childhood, we are dealing with an interesting, though a quite surprising situation. Namely, the children with a high anxiety, this is a hereditary trait, will be forced by the anxiety to do more anti-anxiety work than children with a lower constitutional anxiety level. But this bigger work will result in a stronger arsenal of the anti-anxiety tools and consequently a higher anxiety intelligence. This in turn will enable a way out of the period of the primary childhood psychosis. Meanwhile, children with constitutionally lower anxiety will have far fewer opportunities to improve their anxiolytic qualifications which paradoxically leads to a worse coping with their lower anxiety compared to the children burdened with a higher anxiety. Therefore, their anxiety intelligence does not develop so vividly as to allow the psyche to recover from the primary psychosis during adolescence. They will stay in this psychosis forever. But having a developed anxiety intelligence that guarantee a recovery from the primary psychosis does not unfortunately mean only benefits for the psyche. Of course, the anxiety intelligence leads us out of the world of psychosis, but on the other hand, as an artificial creation, it will never be able to protect against the anxiety as efficiently as the primary psychosis. Hence, people with the well-developed anxiety intelligence, when they leave the safe haven of the primary psychosis, they will sail on the shale of their anxiety intelligence to the wide and turbulent waters of the real world, where this intelligence will often turn out to be helpless. And this will be the pretext for episodes of the anxiety and depressive disorders. On the other hand, 75 to 90% of the humanity, those of us who did not get a well-developed anxiety intelligence in the childhood and will forever remain in the port of the primary psychosis, those of us will never suffer from the anti-anxiety mechanisms decompensation. It's worth noting as a significant thing. While the primary psychosis means stiffness to the point of an almost ossified psyche, a successful exit from the primary psychosis in adolescence will also mean the flexibility of the psyche, a kind of its fluidity, especially compared to the solidification of the psyche in the case of the primary psychosis. Therefore, while the psychotherapy of the latter should aim to reduce the state of stiffness, in the case of a fluid psyche, sometimes too fluid, the therapy should aim to increase the psyche density and to reduce the fluidity. The only question that remains is the effectiveness of any psychotherapy of anxiety or depressive disorders. Can a conversation change the anxiety intelligence of an adult? I do not think so. The psychotherapy, however, can raise self-esteem, and it seems that this is the only role, unfortunately, not necessarily beneficial. The issue of the self-esteem, apart from being a challenge for developing anxiety intelligence, seems to play a significant role in the process of transition from the rigid psyche of childhood to the correct, flexible, mature psyche later in life. There even seems to be a positive link between the two psychological phenomena, namely, the acquired anxiolytic qualifications increase the anxiety intelligence, which contributes to strengthening of the self-esteem. The higher the anxiety intelligence, the higher the self-esteem. However, let's not forget about the dual nature of the self-esteem. I wrote about it in previously published works. There is an internal self-esteem, inaccessible to self-observation, and there is an external self-esteem, a conscious social creation, a kind of a self-promotion. Out of these two self-esteems, only the internal self-esteem is real. And when I use the term self-esteem, I mean only internal self-esteem. Thank you.